Discover the incredible transformation. One Maid's heartwarming journey changed everything for the better. Clara stood in the grand foyer of the Andersons' sprawling mansion, the shimmering chandelier above casting a soft, golden glow over the marble floor. Every morning was the same. She meticulously cleaned and tidied, her heart heavy yet hopeful for a better tomorrow. As she dusted the ornate furniture, she daydreamed about nursing school, about donning a crisp white uniform and helping others heal. But those dreams felt far away, buried under the weight of bills and her mother's declining health. Yet Clara pressed on, fueled by love and determination. She pushed aside her aching limbs and early morning dread to nurture the threads of possibility. Her mother's whispered encouragement echoed in her ears, a gentle reminder of their shared aspirations. Clara imagined her mother's eyes filled with pride, bursting with joy if she could only see her daughter succeed. In the small, bustling diner around the corner, Clara found a sanctuary. The moment she stepped inside, the vibrant hum of conversation warmed her soul. "Clara? The usual?" shouted Tim, the cheerful cook, before sliding a steaming plate of pancakes her way. Here, amidst friendly smiles and shared laughter, she felt seen, at least for a moment. It was a balm to the sting of judgment she often felt from the wealthy families she served. But life swiftly plunged into chaos that fateful evening when Clara received a frantic call. Mrs. Anderson was in distress. Rushing back to the mansion, Clara found her employer in a panic, clutching her chest, gasping for air. Time froze as Clara instinctively took control, calling 911 and supporting the trembling woman. In that critical moment, she became more than a maid, she was a lifeline. For all the time she felt invisible, now she was essential. As the dust settled and the emergency passed, Clara was left grappling with newfound complexities. The Andersons, still shaken, leaned on her for emotional support, yet she found herself pushed deeper into the shadows of their privilege. Anxiety throbbed in her chest as she realized she had been carrying the weight of two worlds, one of the affluent, and another built on struggle. How could she be both servant and confidant without losing herself? Weeks later, emboldened by her mother's unwavering belief in her potential, Clara found the nerve to ask for a raise, her heart pulsing vigorously as she prepared to confront the family that employed her. The silence hung thick in the air the moment she voiced her needs. A sharp gasp echoed, followed by disdainful looks from the family's guests. Her throat tightened. Was it too late to turn back? This was her moment. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The room pulsed with a mix of support and disdain. Some gaped at her audacity while others muttered in low tones. The sting of their judgment cut deep, but Clara could hardly retreat now. She yearned for recognition, she craved dignity. With her dreams of nursing fluttering away like leaves in the wind, hope felt distant, but a heart-to-heart with her mother reignited her spirit. Together, they reflected on sacrifices and vision. Clara recognized it wasn't just her fight, it was a collective struggle for everyone working hard to provide for their families. Ignited by this revelation, she envisioned a gathering, a powerful event to share all their stories, to challenge the world that had marginalized so many. Clara's heart raced. Would she summon the courage to face potential backlash, or would she hide in the shadows once more? As anticipation crackled in the air, one thing became clear. The path to reclaiming her dignity held the promise of something greater than herself. Clara stood at the center of her small kitchen, a kettle whistling impatiently in the background. She clutched a notebook filled with her scribbled notes about the gathering she wanted to organize. A community event, a chance to lift voices that were often silenced. But as the steam curled around her, doubt crept back in, gnawing at her resolve. What if no one showed up? What if her plans fell flat after all the work she put into it? Her fingers traced the worn edges of the notebook, remembering her mother's words of encouragement. "You have the power to inspire, Clara. Don't forget that. Taking a deep breath, she set her jaw. She had to try. The days flew by in a blur of choreographed chaos. Clara spent evenings in the diner, chatting with the locals and inviting them to the gathering, sharing her visions for change. Each nod and smile she received filled her with hope. Still, she felt the weight of resistance pressing down on her, a reminder of the privilege that surrounded her at the Andersons' mansion. The stark contrast between her life and theirs was a constant tension, but she had to push through. As Saturday approached, Clara found herself pacing in her room, nerves spiraling. She pulled out the suitcase she kept tucked away in the corner, rummaging through it until she found her mother's old white dress. It was stained and frayed but full of memories. With trembling hands, she slipped it on, determined to showcase her identity and strength, not just her role as a maid. The day of the gathering arrived, suffusing the air with an undercurrent of anticipation. Clara stood outside the community center, nerves thrumming through her body like a live wire. Chattering voices filled the room, laughter echoing as friends and neighbors mingled. She looked at the faces around her. These were the people who understood, who fought their own battles day by day. Each represented a story worth sharing. Clara took a deep breath, stepped inside and positioned herself at the front of the room, the whispers fading as her presence commanded attention. She opened the floor, inviting others to speak. "Let us share our stories," she said, her voice steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "Let us stand together and claim our place." One by one, people shared their experiences, a father struggling to provide for his children, a woman whose dreams had been stifled by circumstance, a teacher overwhelmed by the lack of support. Clara felt a swell of solidarity within the walls of that room, tension and anger melting away into something more beautiful: hope, resilience, and community. As stories flowed, Clara felt her own past stories spill forth too. She shared her dreams of nursing, her struggles, and the indomitable spirit her mother instilled in her. The raw honesty hung in the air, heavy yet light at the same time. Suddenly, amid the emotional tapestry woven together, Clara caught sight of Mrs. Anderson in the back of the room, her expression unreadable. Fear gripped her, but Clara held her ground. This was bigger than her job. It was about the shared human experience and the fight for dignity. Then something unexpected happened. Mrs. Anderson stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. Clara's breath caught. "I didn't realize how much I needed to hear this," she said. "We can do better together." The room erupted in cheers. In that moment, Clara realized the ripples she was creating were stronger than any wave of judgment that had once threatened to pull her under. But as the gathering wore on, a flicker of uncertainty crept in. What awaited her at the mansion when she returned? This experience felt transformative, but would the Andersons embrace the change, or would they remain shackled by their own privilege? A storm was brewing, and Clara felt the weight of the skies above her. What would she do when those familiar walls closed in around her again? And what would it mean for her new vision? Clara's heart pounded with questions yet unanswered as the event continued, the future still unwritten. As the gathering began to wind down, Clara felt the energy shift in the room. Conversations buzzed like a hive, people exchanging contact information, forging connections. She caught snippets of laughter, of light-hearted debates. A father held his daughter on his shoulders, and Clara could see glimmers of hope in the sparkling eyes of those around her. But the warmth in her heart didn't mask the unease creeping back in. What now? Would everyone go back to their everyday struggles with no newfound strength? Would Mrs. Anderson think twice about her role in all of this? Clara could still see her standing there, a delicate figure amidst the loud laughter, reflecting on change she never anticipated. She glanced down at her mother's dress, imagining the stories woven into the fabric. It held strength, resilience, a legacy of defiance whispered into its seams. Taking it off later would feel like shedding a piece of herself. As she gathered her notes and materials, Clara's mind swirled with possibilities. She had prayed for a spark, but this felt like an inferno. The voices that had been silenced for so long now rang clear. But what would she do with that power? Questions simmered in the back of her mind. Exiting the center, Clara stepped into the cool evening breeze, her heart racing with the fight of 1,000 unplayed notes. She could hear murmurs of gratitude and connections blooming behind her, but also the rumbles of uncertainty within. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a text from Mia, her best friend. How did it go? Did you change the world today? Clara smiled, biting her lip as she typed back. I don't know yet. As she made her way back home, she found herself grappling with the magnitude of stepping outside her role at the mansion. The privilege and power of the Andersons loomed over her mind, that familiar anxiety creeping back. Could they truly understand what she was trying to build, or was she just an employee in their eyes? When she opened the door to the mansion, an unsettling stillness enveloped her. The air felt thick as she stepped inside, each creaky floorboard underfoot echoing in the empty halls. The chandelier sparkled above her, an imposing reminder of the world she served yet didn't quite belong to. She caught a glimpse of the living room where they usually gathered for dinner. It was too quiet, almost eerie. Her mind flickered back to Mrs. Anderson's words. We can do better together. But Clara knew that the change plea could only go so far, and who would be willing to change? Suddenly, as she turned to head towards the kitchen, she caught sight of Mr. Anderson pacing in the hall, his face pulled tight with worry. He didn't see her at first, lost in his own thoughts. Clara felt a twinge of panic. Would he be supportive or dismissive? Would everyone there look down on her for the gathering? Clara, he finally noticed her, his voice gravelly. I'm glad you're here. We need to talk. Her heart raced. What did he want? Did he know? Would he cast aside her dreams of change? Clara took a step forward, resolving to find out. She had found her voice, finally. What if she could inspire even one small change within these walls? The thought ignited something deep within her, a resolve harder than before. Okay, she replied cautiously, her resolve hardening. What do we need to talk about? His eyes held a weight she couldn't decipher. Clara held her breath, the air thick with anticipation as she braced herself for the conversation that might just alter everything. Would she be met with understanding, or would those familiar walls close in around her again? Mr. Anderson beckoned her to sit on a plush chair, his expression a complicated blend of concern and determination. Clara settled into the seat, letting the soft fabric cradle her anxiety just a bit. She needed to keep her mind steady, to focus on the possibility of what might lie ahead. Clara, he started, his voice low, almost hesitant. I've seen the impact of your gathering. It was different, energizing. People were engaged in a way I've never witnessed before. The compliment caught Clara off guard, and for a fleeting moment, hope glimmered. Maybe he understood more than she thought. But then his brow furrowed again. But I'm worried. Change doesn't come easy for people like us. There are expectations, traditions. Clara's heart sank a little. She hadn't realized there were traditions weighing on him too. Tradition doesn't always equal progress, Mr. Anderson, she responded, her voice firm. We can't stay stuck in the past when it's the future we need to focus on. He looked at her, his blue eyes searching hers for conviction. She held his gaze, feeling the weight of her words. As hard as it was to confront him, she was more settled in her convictions than she'd ever been. I am not just some maid to you, she continued, steady as the ground beneath her. I'm someone who wants change not just for myself, but for everyone around us. If we don't make an effort, those moments from tonight will fade into memories, and nothing will ever change. Mr. Anderson raked a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I know, I see that. But my family, our position, it all complicates things. What you did tonight was amazing, but I can't promise it won't stir up trouble. Sometimes you need to stir the pot to make a good meal, Clara said, catching the fire in her voice. If you truly want to do better, then let us work together. You have influence. Use it to create a spaces where voices like mine can be heard. Can we really change the world? He mused, almost to himself. What if we could? Silence stretched between them as they both leaned into what was unfolding. Clara felt her heart pound in her chest, a steady rhythm of hope against the weight of reality. She realized she wasn't just battling for her dream but for others who might feel just as trapped. I'll take this to the family, he finally said, his voice carrying a hint of awe. But I need you by my side. Your voice matters, Clara. Whom else would they listen to if not you? She swallowed a lump in her throat, pride swelling deep within. Together, we could make a difference. As they spoke, Clara felt the walls of the mansion once so confining begin to fade. The shadows of the past couldn't hold them back anymore. There was real promise here, a chance to transform something broken into something beautiful. But as she processed his words, a small part of her still trembled with unease. Would everyone in the family be open to hearing her? Would they join her in the fight for this new path? She had poured her heart into this cause, but there was always a risk that came with hope. Mr. Anderson stood, determination churning in his eyes. Let us see where this leads, shall we? Clara nodded, exhilaration mixing with uncertainty. However, just as the air buzzed with possibility, the heavy creak of the door interrupted their conversation. They both turned to see Mrs. Anderson standing in the threshold, her expression unreadable. Is this a private conversation? She asked, arms crossed in a defiant pose. Because I think it's time I was included. Clara's heart raced anew. The course of change was speeding towards her, and she wasn't sure if she was prepared for what lay ahead. Would they lean in for this transformation, or were the secrets of the past too strong to penetrate? Clara could feel the tension prickling in the air, a thick, charged silence that hung between them. Mrs. Anderson's arrival felt like the brook that dammed up a torrent, and Clara's stomach tightened. She wasn't ready. This was the moment she had envisioned, yet it held multiple layers of uncertainty. Mr. Anderson shifted, his earlier determination dampening like an extinguished spark. Mother, we were just discussing how the gathering might bring about change, he began, his voice steadier than the tremor in Clara's heart. Change? Mrs. Anderson raised an eyebrow, skepticism dripping from each syllable. And you think, Clara? She gestured dismissively as if the word itself was an alien sound. What gives her the right to speak up? Clara pushed back against the wave of indignation. I'm not asking for permission, Mrs. Anderson. I'm taking a stand for those who've been silenced too long. A flicker of surprise flashed across Mrs. Anderson's face. Perhaps Clara's words had struck a chord, but it was quickly masked by a steely resolve. This is not just about voices. It's about stability, reputation. The family name must not be tarnished by whimsical notions. Mr. Anderson interjected, his voice rising a notch. But what is stability if it comes at the cost of progress? Clara is showing us a different way. A better way. Mrs. Anderson's gaze locked on her son, the force of their family name looming heavily over them as if it had physical weight. Clara watched, her heart beating rapidly. This was the moment. Would the woman before her see the truth, or would she remain a guardian of outdated traditions? Your convictions are admirable, my dear, Mrs. Anderson said, her tone dripping with condescension. But you're forgetting your place. Something broke inside Clara. My place? The words came out sharper than intended. For so long, I have been defined by limitations. By everyone's expectations, not my own. If I am to be part of this family, I will speak my truth. Clara's breath hitched as she realized what she had just said. Part of this family? What did that even mean? Fear and exhilaration churned within her, a confusing cocktail of hope laced with panic. Mrs. Anderson's expression softened just a fraction, a fleeting moment of vulnerability that was quickly extinguished. You have heart, Clara, but heart cannot change a lifetime of tradition. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words. Then Mr. Anderson stepped up, a flicker of defiance igniting once more in his blue eyes. Then let us change the tradition. It's time for a house built on understanding and collaboration rather than antiquated power structures. Clara felt a rush of warmth, her spirit reigniting in the presence of someone who shared her vision. Together, they faced Mrs. Anderson, as if they were an unyielding wall against the shadows creeping from the past. But Mrs. Anderson's posture hardened again, arms still crossed, trapping the room in an unyielding time capsule. Very well, she said slowly, her voice steadier now. If you believe this is the path forward, I have one condition. Clara inhaled deeply, her heart racing again. What condition could possibly be tied to this moment of potential? Would it be another barrier or an unexpected bridge toward change? Let us hear it, Mr. Anderson said, voice steady but his expression betraying a flicker of doubt. As Mrs. Anderson began to speak, the air crackled with tension once more, each word a potential turning point. Clara braced herself, caught between hope and fear, ready to fight for the future she so desperately believed in. Little did she know, the change they craved would come at a price that might test them beyond what they had prepared for. What sacrifices would they have to make to truly bring about the transformation they envisioned? Clara's heart was racing, and the future was taking shape, but its form remained shrouded in uncertainty. Mrs. Anderson paused, the weight of her words hanging in the air like thick fog. Clara held her breath, anticipation coursing through her veins. This was it. This was the juncture where everything would shift, and all of them would be swept into the tide of change if they could just break through the dam. "Here's my condition," Mrs. Anderson began, her tone dropping to a near whisper. "You must attend every gathering we host and participate as my representative. But you will speak only on issues concerning our community. No discussions about reforms or radical ideas." Clara's heart sank like a stone into water. Each word was like a chain, binding her back to the very role she sought to escape. "That's not fair. I can't speak for the community without being honest about the changes we need. And you think honesty will bring respect?" Mrs. Anderson's brow furrowed. "You'll ruin everything, Clara. You have passion, but that alone will not win the day. The community prefers stability. I will not allow you to put our names in jeopardy." Clara exchanged a glance with Mr. Anderson. His eyes reflected both anger and disbelief. How could his mother not see what was at stake? She was fighting for something that was so much bigger than herself. "Mom, just listen to her," he urged, his voice rising. "The community needs more than just the status quo. They need somebody who is willing to challenge the conventional paths and enough." Mrs. Anderson's voice rang like a bell, cutting through the tension that had crept into every crack of the room. "You misunderstand my intentions. This is not just about you. It's about protecting the family legacy." Clara felt a wave of frustration wash over her. "Is that what this is about? A legacy? What good is a name if it's built on the silence of those who need help?" There was a moment of heavy silence. Mrs. Anderson's eyes glinted with something that looked suspiciously like fear, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Instead, she turned her gaze to Mr. Anderson, her voice schooling into calm authority. "You want to change? Then you must give me 1 year to prove to me that your way is valid. No tantrums, no reckless speeches. Just simple observation and compliance." Clara's chest tightened. "A year? To twist in the rigidity of expectations? That's not change. That's suffocation. There's a reason traditions exist, Clara," Mrs. Anderson returned, her composure regaining strength. "They've protected this family for generations, and they will continue to do so." Mr. Anderson looked between the two women, his expression conflicted. It was clear the thought of compliance troubled him, but he also wanted to maintain peace with his mother. Clara felt a pang of disappointment. She needed him to stand beside her, not in the middle. "Something has to give," she said, her voice softer now but filled with a hint of desperation. "I want to be a puppet in this arrangement. If you want to do this, I need freedom to make my voice heard. Your passion is noted, but choice is a luxury in traditions." Mrs. Anderson's eyes softened just a fraction, the glimmer of danger hidden behind the wall of tradition. "Think carefully about what you desire. This is your only chance." The room grew heavy with uncertainty, each breath feeling weighty with choices unmade. Clara's heart raced, her future teetering on the edge of a precipice. As they stood in silence, Clara felt the invisible thread pulling at her. What freedom was worth if it came at the price of a beloved family? But was clinging to those traditions worth losing her soul in the process? Her mind raced with possibilities, and as the air hummed with tension, a dawning realization struck her. If they were to find common ground, sacrifices would have to be made not just by her, but by the Andersons. Yet, even against the backdrop of that contemplation, an unsettling question lingered in the corners of her mind. Would Mrs. Anderson truly allow change, or was this just another facade to maintain the status quo? The stakes were rising, and for every minute that passed, the world outside was inching forward, leaving them behind in a whirlpool of indecision. Clara knew she needed to act. But what would that action entail? And at what cost? The tension in the room was palpable, a thick mist of unresolved emotions swirling around them. Clara glanced at Mr. Anderson, silently pleading for his support. But instead, he looked down, a deep frown etched onto his face. Could she truly navigate this minefield alone? Do you really believe, Clara finally said, her voice trembling slightly, that status quo is sustainable? That sticking to tradition will keep us safe? Mrs. Anderson's face hardened in response, the gentlewoman she'd known fading behind a mask of authority. Sometimes, Clara, safety is far more important than ambition. You're young, and you have a lot to learn about the complexities of our world. But it doesn't have to be that way. Clara burst out. You speak of traditions like they're sacred, but they sometimes bind us to policies that hurt people. Can't you see that? A flicker of doubt crossed Mrs. Anderson's eyes, but it was quickly smothered by her unwavering resolve. I can see that you're passionate, but passion without careful action can lead to chaos. If we break apart everything, what are we left with? Hope, Clara answered, her convictions surging. A chance for a better tomorrow, for everyone. Not just for the select few who fit the mold. Mr. Anderson shifted uncomfortably. He was caught between two worlds, the tradition he had known, and the one Clara dreamed of. Clara turned to him, eyes wide, searching for a sign, a flicker of understanding. You want change, right? She whispered urgently. You want to infuse our community with life, not suffocate it in red tape? His gaze flickered to his mother, and Clara saw the battle in his mind unfold. I do want change, he finally admitted, his voice low but firm. But I wish for it to be an evolution, not a revolution that uproots everything in one go. Clara nodded, aware that diplomacy was essential, yet she felt fire inside her. Silence hung in the air as they navigated the emotional waters, each person searching for their footing. How much time are we willing to lose? She pressed. Mrs. Anderson stiffened, her lips pressing into a thin line. But Clara could sense the slight tremor of her resolve. The fear of change seemed to bubble beneath the surface. Clara, having you as a representative is it's a chain, Clara interrupted, her heart racing. A chain meant to hold me in place. I can't grow. I won't grow if I don't dare to be uncomfortable. Mrs. Anderson's fingers tightened around her cup, the porcelain glinting under the light. You don't realize the stakes at play, she said in a voice that was growing colder with every word. You think you're ready to fight against the river, but the river has its own ways. I don't need you to protect me from currents, Clara shot back. I need you to trust that I won't drown. Tension thickened again, each second heavy with unsaid words and grappling emotions. Would they find a way forward together, or would this fractious moment carve a permanent rift within them? In that instant, something within Clara snapped into resolution. I refuse to be quieted. 1 year? No. I won't be part of a plan that forces me to silence my fight. I will attend every gathering, but only if I can express the truth about our community's struggles. Mrs. Anderson blinked, surprise tracing her features. You're threatening your own place in this family, she said quietly, a tremble in her voice that Clara had never heard before. Maybe that's true, Clara admitted, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drum. But if it means losing myself in the name of family, then is it really worth it? Silence enveloped them again, thick like smoke. The world outside continued its march forward, while they remained caught in this web of tradition and aspiration. As Clara held Mrs. Anderson's gaze, she wondered if this would be their moment of truth. Would they find a compromise, or would this be the day their paths diverged irreparably? Yet the thought of the tide turning without her was almost unbearable. What would it take for them to accept the truth, that progress often began with uncomfortable choices? As Clara waited for the answer, uncertainty gripped her heart tighter than ever. And in that silence, she wondered, would she truly have the courage to step into the unknown? Or would she find herself swallowed whole by the very legacy she longed to change? Clara blinked, her heart racing as the weight of the moment pressed down. She could feel the ticking clock, every second echoing in her ears. The room was a battleground now, and the stakes were higher than ever. Clara, think this through, Mr. Anderson interjected gently, his voice a lifeline amid the rising turmoil. Your passion is admirable, but we can't just throw caution to the wind. There's a whole community to consider. But right now, it's about more than just the community, Clara exclaimed. It's about us. It's about what we want to stand for. She paused, desperately searching Mr. Anderson's face for a sign that he understood. People are hurting, and we can't ignore that anymore. Mrs. Anderson's expression softened for a moment, a flicker of a woman who wrestled with more than just her role as a matriarch. You speak of unity, but unity cannot exist without a solid foundation, she said, almost pleading. If we dismantle everything now, what remains? I would rather build something new than prop up a broken structure, Clara replied, her voice steady. She realized that every word she spoke was a thread, weaving a fragile tapestry of hope around them. We can honor our roots while growing towards the light. A silence settled, heavy and uncomfortable. Clara could feel her words cutting through the thick atmosphere like a knife. She looked at the older woman, searching for a crack in the armor. For a moment, fear flashed across Mrs. Anderson's face, a mix of concern and something deeper. Was it regret? Clara, Mr. Anderson said softly, sometimes growth comes at a cost. His gaze shifted toward his mother. What if your fight causes more harm than good? Mrs. Anderson nodded, eyes narrowing with unspoken fear. We could lose everything. I can't have that on my conscience. Suddenly, anger surged through Clara like fire. What about the people we hurt by clinging to this outdated way of life? She shot back. What about their pain? Doesn't that matter? She felt the swell of her emotions rising, threatening to spill over. The room felt charged, electric, with a mixture of hope and despair. How can you be so resolute? Mrs. Anderson asked, her voice wavering. Because I have to be, Clara said, her voice trembling with conviction. I can't stay silent while lives are at stake. That's the real price of inaction. The air shifted, an undeniable tension snapping between them. Each heartbeat resonated, a silent countdown towards some impending realization. Mr. Anderson grasped his mother's hand gently, his thumb warming her cold fingers. What if we tried to listen, truly listen? Clara's pulse quickened at the prospect. Yes. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with possibility. Let us create spaces for everyone to share their stories. If we listen, maybe we can find that common ground you both crave. But Mrs. Anderson interjected, a delicate hesitation in her tone. What if the stories we hear shake our beliefs to their core? Then we must be brave enough to be shaken, Clara urged, a sense of determination surging through her. If we want to lead, we need to be open, vulnerable. We grow from discomfort. And if that discomfort means changing the way we view our community, then we must embrace it. Across the table, Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Anderson exchanged glances. Could they grasp the truth hidden there? Clara watched their expressions transform, battling against their instincts, weighing the potential for growth against the safety of tradition. We owe it to ourselves, Clara insisted softly, to try. The alternative is stagnation, and that's not living. A long pause lingered, filled with unspoken thoughts and unfathomable emotions. Would this be the moment they took a step into the unknown together? Was Clara's insistence powerful enough to pierce through their fears? As hope blossomed unsteadily in Clara's chest, she realized the possibility that lay before them. Something could change. Something could be different. But would they choose the path of change? And what if she found that change requiring an even deeper sacrifice than she had prepared for? The tension in the room hung like a thick fog, and Clara could almost taste the uncertainty in the air. She could see Mrs. Anderson's lips pressed together, a tight line betraying her inner conflict, while Mr. Anderson's brow furrowed as he weighed his mother's fears against Clara's passionate plea. Clara felt her heart racing, urging her to keep speaking, to break through the walls they had built around themselves. "What if we opened our doors?" she said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "What if we let everyone know they can speak? Hear their stories, really hear them? We might just discover that our fears are misplaced." Mr. Anderson let out a deep breath, his gaze drifting to the window where the soft light began to fade. "It's not that simple, Clara," he replied, his voice tinged with a mix of frustration and resignation. "The community is fractured. We've always had our way, and now you want to upend everything? But look at what's happening outside those walls," Clara urged, gesturing toward the window. "People are suffering. They're fighting battles that you and I can't even imagine. If we don't open our eyes now, we're just as guilty." Mrs. Anderson's expression softened further, conflicted, as if Clara's words bore into a part of her that had remained dormant for far too long. "But Clara, what if their stories change us in ways we can't control?" she whispered. It was a genuine question, laced with fear. "Isn't that the point?" Clara responded, her chest swelling with a mix of hope and fear. "If we want to lead, we must be willing to adapt and grow. That means confronting uncomfortable truths and allowing our beliefs to evolve." Silence enveloped them again, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the distant sound of laughter filtering in from the street outside. Could they truly risk everything for the chance of something better? Clara felt the weight of that question pressing against her, but deep inside, she sensed the undeniable currents of change shifting beneath the surface. "Well," Mr. Anderson said finally, glancing at his mother, "if we are going to do this, we must do it right. Maybe what Clara is saying has merit. But we need a plan." A flicker of light shone in Clara's chest at his words, igniting a small spark of hope. "Let us not just come up with a plan. Let us involve the community. Let us hold meetings and invite everyone to share their voices. We'll build our foundation on their stories." Mrs. Anderson seemed lost in thought, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. "It makes me uneasy, Clara. What if we hear things we can't accept? Then we confront them together," Clara replied, her voice soothing yet firm. "We cultivate understanding instead of fear. It's the only way to truly unite." After a moment, Mrs. Anderson exhaled, her shoulders relaxing just a little. "All right, I'll trust you, Clara. But we should proceed cautiously." Clara nodded, feeling grateful yet overwhelmed. Caution is wise, but so is courage. They were on the precipice of something big, and Clara could feel her heart pounding with the thrill of possibility. Together, they could challenge the long-held beliefs that had built both their homes and their barriers. As they left the table, a vibrating excitement buzzed in Clara's veins. But as the evening dimmed, casting long shadows across the room, an unexpected doubt crept in. What if they faced backlash? What if the very voices they hoped to unite turned against them instead? With those thoughts shadowing her heart, Clara stepped outside, the cool night air brushing against her skin as she looked up at the stars. They sparkled brightly, a reminder of guidance in uncertainty. "Here it goes," she whispered to herself. This is just the beginning, but as she took a step forward, she couldn't shake the sense that someone was watching her from the darkness beyond. Who was it? And what might they hold over her plans for change? The sun crested the horizon, spilling soft light into Clara's bedroom. She woke up feeling a delicious mix of hope and nerves swirling inside her. Today was the day. The community gathering to discuss change and share stories was upon her. Thrumming with anticipation, Clara dressed carefully in the old white dress, a reminder of battles fought and sacrifices made. The threads were frayed, but they whispered strength into her spirit. As she stepped out of the house, the brisk morning air rushed against her cheeks, lifting her heart. Clara's heart echoed the vibrant hope buzzing around her. People filled the community center, their laughter spilling into the streets. She could see familiar faces, Tim from the diner, neighbors she'd invited, and even the shy elderly man who lived nearby. "Clara? Glad you made it," Tim called, sliding a cup of coffee her way. She took a sip and felt warmth spread through her. Taking deep breaths, Clara lined up her notes, and prepared for the moment she'd been dreaming of. She could see each face shining with eagerness, each representing a story waiting to unfold. Today, they were here to claim their place. The gathering expanded beyond her fears. As people shared their experiences, trials, heartaches, victories, Clara felt community knit together on the threads of connection. Each story built a bridge over the lonely islands of their struggles, and Clara's heart soared higher as her own story flowed into the mix. With each word, she felt herself transform from the invisible maid to a beacon of change. When it was her turn, Clara stepped onto the makeshift stage. She took a steadying breath, grounding herself. "You all know me as the Maid," she began, and a murmur of acknowledgement swept through the crowd. "But today, I stand as a voice for all of us who've held the weight of silence for too long." The room buzzed with emotions. There was tension, but also a shared heartbeat of hope. Clara shared her dreams of becoming a nurse, her mother's unwavering belief in her, and the event that pushed her to claim the space for everyone. Tears glistened in the eyes of those around her, and Clara felt her spirit knit into theirs. "It's time we embrace change," she urged, each word a plea but also a mantra of strength. "Together we can create a new future, one where everyone belongs." Then, unexpectedly, Clara spotted Mrs. Anderson at the back, a fragile smile lighting her face. For the first time, Clara saw the woman not as her employer, but as an ally. A collective inhale rippled through the crowd, and a sea of faces turned towards her, eyes wide and filled with a newfound understanding. Clearly, the winds were shifting. After the gathering, people mingled, sharing thoughts, exchanging numbers, and forming connections. Clara felt the energy, alive and vibrant, a testament to the change they craved. Tim caught her eye, beaming with pride. "You did it, Clara! Just look at them!" The air was filled with laughter, a sweet melody that wove opportunities into the present. But as Clara turned to leave, she heard a quiet, authoritative voice behind her. "Clara," it was Mrs. Anderson, approaching with a soft yet firm demeanor. Clara felt a wave of uncertainty, yet also a flicker of resolve. "Mrs. Anderson, I know you have something to say," Mrs. Anderson interjected, her tone earnest. "And I want to support you, all of you." Clara's heart leaped. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Anderson glanced around, her gaze heavy with determination. "I want us to start making real changes, not just words. I see now how important every voice is, and I will help." An electrifying current flowed through Clara. This was it. The moment she had hoped would come. Together, they could forge a path toward transformation where privilege didn't outweigh compassion and empathy. Clara nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Together," she echoed, "we will do this together." In that moment, the walls of the mansion faded away. Under the same gleaming sky, Clara felt the bright dawn of a new era unfolding. They could embrace one another's stories, battling the shadows of the past. With renewed hope, she pictured families uniting, communities thriving, and her dreams so close, yet finally within reach. As she stepped outside, swept away by the laughter and camaraderie, Clara could feel the warmth of possibility embracing her like never before. "Let us get to work," she said, her heart full, eyes sparkling. This was only the beginning. A spark ignited, and she knew this time they wouldn't let it dwindle. You need to subscribe now to follow this inspiring journey. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative experience.